Welcome to Deep Thought. Religious warfare out here. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper. Now, y'all know I don't usually talk about, different religions, spiritual paths, because really just out of respect. But I do have to point out something overall. And of course, even in this, I'm not going to mention specific paths, because this is something I've seen in all of them, and it's religious warfare. Now, there's the obvious of, in certain regions of the world, people going at each other for nothing else but a difference in religion. This could even be within the same path. But when we talk about warfare, it's deeper than people shooting at each other or killing. Warfare itself takes many levels. It could be a cultural war. People are familiar with that term, and that's a very real thing. It could be arguments. It could just be a difference of opinion, even within this own country. And I ain't going to get into it too deep, but a lot of the opposition with each other is very spiritually based. Is religiously based on ideas, foreign policy, everything. Now, there was a book that I read. It's by a gentleman named Samuel P. Huntington. It was called The Clash of Civilizations. And it was basically he had divided the world into 8 spheres of influence, but he said the one thing, it was on religion. See, understand something. Religion is more than just a connection to God or someone's perception of it. Now, connection to deity is very important, and I'm going to talk about it later this week, but religion is an operating system. It's an operating system. Like, for example, in this country, right? Think about it. We have different hours on Sunday. Right? That's because this country is predominantly Christian, even though it's probably the most religiously diverse country in the world, but it's still, everything's coming from religion, a lot of ideas. I mean, even something like abortion, the opposition to it is primarily Christian, Or if you look at the some sects of Catholicism, they totally against any type of birth control, any type. So if, they mate within it, but then, the baby's coming. They're against abortion, against any type of birth control. And I'm throwing that out there just as an example. I mean, it permeates everything. Not just, some countries, particularly in the Middle East, it's a stronger permutation, more obvious, but it's the same way here. Think about the example of Christmas. Not happy holidays, Christmas. That was a day everything was closed. Everything. That's a religious thing. Now it's opened up a bit when, people say happy holidays. And the reality is there are many religions around there, but it's even political when people will still say Merry Christmas. And just to be clear, if somebody say Merry Christmas to me, I'm like, hey, Merry Christmas to you too. But that's just because of my upbringing. I'll put it like that. I still show respect. Somebody say Happy Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. But the thing is, it's a lot of conflict that gets down to it. Because there's a tendency of people thinking that their way is the only path to deity. Their way. They're only their way. And then not just that, but just the need to force their way on others. And let's be real, because I know some people who might not practice, you'll see this definitely in the Christian religion, but others will say, well, we don't do that. Well, no, I've seen it happen from not just Christians doing that, but other people. They'll just do it maybe in a different way. They'll say, hey, you need to be doing this. Like I've known many African spiritualists, and they'll say, hey, I need to be practicing this. But then that becomes a conflict when you try to force your views on someone. And as I said at the beginning, that's why I don't promote a particular path. There's a respect for all paths. And there's beauty, but also negativity and everything too. But that's not based on deity. That's based on human beings. But the thing is, it's a lot. It's just so much. When you break it down, it'll come down to that. I would say it's even deeper than racial or even class conflict. Because I'm gonna tell you what, I remember what a friend of mine said one time. He wanted to do a Muslim superhero, and specifically a Muslim superhero. And ironically, he wasn't Muslim himself; he was more Rasta. But he wanted to do a story about that because he said, "How can you separate someone's religious path from who they are as a hero?" And then I remember there was another question. It was about superheroes in general, like about Superman. It was a philosophical discussion. It was like, would Superman believe in God? You know, he can do all this stuff. Why would he believe in something greater? No, and seriously. And that's something even in comics they don't talk about. But outside in the real world, it makes something. Even if you're not a person who practices it. You know, people fight over beliefs, regardless of what it is. People exercise control over beliefs. People try to expand their beliefs. They do it in different ways, you know. So we have a lot of conflict out here just based on that because what is it? I mean, seriously, religion, yes, there's the spiritual part, which honestly, in my view, should be what is focused on, like actually connecting with deity. And, you know, as I said, I'm going to talk about it later this week. That's what the focus should be on. But really, it's a way of operating. If you're a person that only eats certain meals because of your spiritual system, like I know with some folks who might practice the Kemetic path, they feel like only don't eat any meat or anything, be vegan. You know, or, you know, you got dietary restrictions in many religious paths, right? And, you know, that's a behavior or how you act towards other people. That's a big part of it. And it's such a fundamental part of who we are. And there's a deeper reason for that despite the path. And I'm going to talk about that the next episode. But it's something out here, and it's something to consider. It's something to consider that there's so much conflict over simply the path to a higher power. And it's something to think about. The obvious thing to say is, hey, show some respect. The obvious thing to say, but as we see out here, that's not the case. That's not the case. But I would say if we even going to get to that level where we do have a real peace out here, real respect for others, we have to talk about it. So I'm going to throw that out there. Now, like I said, I do my part. I show respect for all paths. Even if I personally don't agree with something in it, I would say, hey, that's your path, you know. And that's a connection. That's the connection between you and, your faith in God, however you want to choose to worship God. And I'm just using the term God as a general sense. Some people wouldn't even use that term, but that's their choice. But I just wanted to just throw that out there. Now I'm going to talk about some other stuff with regard to religion, just general, in the next few episodes. So anyway, that's all I got for now. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.